Alright guys, before we get started on the hooded sprayer, I wanted to bring you out here and show you something I've kept under wraps for a little while now. So it's been a new top secret project for me, but we're actually experimenting with a new crop this year. Can you guess what it is? Because my truck finally got ready. It took several more days than what we thought it'd take, but we still got a lot of grain to haul. You can see got all the bushings replaced. But they also had to do some other things. 2 airbags was dry rotted, they replaced those. Then we got 2 torsion bar members here. They said the bushings were shot in them, got another one up there. Had to replace all of that, and I definitely made the right decision by taking it over there, because everything on this truck that they had to take off was froze up. They actually had to take these leaf springs off. The U-bolts had to torch them off because they were froze up. Had to put new bolts in my shocks, new bolts here. I mean, all this stuff was absolutely froze up. They had to take the springs off to actually get them in a real high capacity press. So total damage was 20 hours of labor. If I had tried to do it myself, if I'd even been able to get it done, it'd take me a lot more than 20 hours. So definitely money well spent taking it over there, and I could focus that time on doing other stuff that I'm more capable of doing on the farm. But total damage with parts and labor and everything was about $9,600. You know, this old truck probably ain't worth a whole heck of a lot more than that. So I'm gonna get hooked up to the trailer, get started hauling. Kelly and Zach are out spraying soybeans. We got a chance of rain coming in tomorrow night and Saturday, and our pre-emerge that we put out on our wheat beans, I mean, we never got a rain to activate it. By the time we finally did get a little bit of rain, it'd been out there so long, the chemicals were degraded, and I really doubt we got much residual activity out of them. And where we got in the farm we got our wheat beans on, a lot of them have pigweed problems, so they're out spraying Roundup and prefix, just trying to get some more residual down there, and hopefully we'll get it rained in this weekend. Otherwise I could have a pretty bad pigweed problem on my farm, and with all those being Roundup Extend beans, too late to spray Extend. I wouldn't spray Extend anyway, just because I don't want to damage other people's crops. But we don't have any kind of post-emergence chemical options to control any pigweeds that do come up. Because we can't spray Liberty on those beans. They're not tolerant to Liberty. The only thing we can do is get out there with a hoe, or get out there and pull them up. And I know we'll have to do a little bit of that. I just sure don't want to do it on a wide scale. So they're out getting all the wheat beans sprayed, and cross our fingers, pray to the good Lord that that stuff gets rained in this weekend to help provide us some residual control. All right, let's hurry and get hooked up to this thing, get loaded up, and see if we can make a trip to the river this afternoon.
What? No. Huh?
Ooh, it's hot out there.
1
All right, 3 o'clock. Make tracks for the river. All right, we got our load hauled, and I've been working on trying to get this thing finished up for the last couple hours, and I think we got it ready to go. Main thing I do is get it swapped over from my drop down nozzles, get all them taken off, and then we've never run water under the hoods or on the post-direct part, so had a few dirt daubers nests we had to get cleaned out and get stuff flushed out, get all the tips, make sure they're spraying. Turn it on! And show you what we're doing. Up underneath the hoods, we got 3 tips there that will spray a non-selective herbicide underneath the hoods. And then we've got 2 nozzles here, 2 angled nozzles that will spray up under the row of the cotton. So we're going to be spraying Liberty and Valor. Now the Liberty won't hurt the cotton, but the Valor sure enough will. The Valor is a pre-emerge herbicide. Keeps weeds from germinating, and if any of it gets on the cotton, it could severely hurt it. So that's why we're going with this route right here. We'll spray all the middles with the nozzles up underneath the hoods, and then the 2 post-direct nozzles will be able to shoot chemical up under the cotton to kill any weeds and keep weeds from coming up, but it won't get it on the cotton. So tell you what, these last 2 days have been brutal. Temperatures over 100 degrees, humidity, swampy. You know, we spent all yesterday inside the grain bin, about ruined all of us, and then today about put the final nail in the coffin for me anyway. Well, I got a public service announcement for you. The next polar vortex is only about 5 months away, but I tell you what, Satan can go ahead and shut the oven right now. I could use we could all use a little reprieve, especially the corn crop. Even though we had some rain here on our corn right here around the shop, you wouldn't guess it by driving down the road. It is flat out cooking in the fields. Every day goes by, the prospects of a decent corn crop keep dropping farther and farther. Now I'm just hoping we don't have a disaster. I'm hoping we can salvage enough of the corn crop to at least break even on it. Whereas back in late May, I was kind of wishing I planted less cotton and more corn. Now I'm the other way around. I wish I planted less corn and more cotton, because the cotton is doing well in these temperatures, and it's not big enough to be hurting for moisture yet. Although if this keeps on, they'll be hurt for moisture before long. The cotton got a lot better ability to withstand these high temperatures and dry conditions. It's more of an arid type crop as opposed to corn. All right, Carter, you can go ahead and shut it off. All right, it's that time of day. Time to have an adult beverage. Woo. Gotta get my vitamin C. Well guys, that's gonna do it for today. I'll bring you back when we do something interesting. Well, we finally made it out here to the cotton field. I got my hooded sprayer here behind me, and not much different than what y'all saw this spring, except for instead of spraying our burn down strips where the road's going to be, we're now spraying underneath the hoods and then post-directing spray up underneath the cotton plants. Now you see our cotton is progressing on along pretty well. I mean, for the conditions that we got, it actually looks pretty dang good. It looks better than it did this time last year, with the one exception that this cotton is shorter than it should be at this point of the year, and that is strictly because of dry weather. Normally this time of year we would be probably putting on our first application of plant growth regulator, which doesn't stop the plant from growing, but the distance between nodes it shortens the cell growth to where it doesn't elongate the stem as much. This year at this point, there is absolutely no need for a plant growth regulator. Normally we like to see about 3 inches in between each node or each sets of branches on the plant. That's about the perfect growth pattern. Anytime we get over 3 inches, that's when we start applying a plant growth regulator. This year, right now, we're seeing about 1 to 2 inches in between each set of nodes. Plant's still growing, still progressing normally. It's just not going to be as tall because the branches are stacked closer together. At this point, that really should not affect yield. However, as this drought persists, it definitely will affect yield. But right now, what the shorter stature plant is meaning is that we're not going to get as good a weed control because the plant's not growing and it's not, it's not blocking sunlight from the middles. Normally, we want it to grow tall and then, start overlapping in the middles and provide shade for the soil, which will help keep other weeds from emerging. This year, we're not going to get that. Although, as dry as the soil is, there's no moisture in the topsoil to be germinating weeds anyway. So, really kind of a moot point at this point. And guys, the situation here in West Tennessee and surrounding areas it's now official. It's serious as far as drought. We have now been classified as in a severe drought, which is one step below the most extreme drought classification. It's dry. This is most definitely the driest it's been since 2012, and well, it keeps on. It's going to be the same, if not worse, than 2012. We might start approaching levels that we saw in 2007. However, the difference is in 2012 the drought came along a little earlier and then kind of eased up a little bit later in the year. Really hurt the corn crop, but the cotton and soybean crop fared a little better because they're later crops. And they called a little late season moisture that helped them. 2007, every crop was abysmal. I mean, we had corn was terrible, cotton was awful, soybeans was awful. It was the worst drought we'd had in like 60 or 70 years. And I mean, this keeps up, that's what we're going to be looking at again. And not only is it dry out there, it is scorching hot. The last 3 days have just been, I mean, terrible. I mean, you saw us a couple days ago in the grain bin. I mean, it about ruined us. Yesterday was just, I mean, you can't even catch your breath outside because not only is it hot with temperatures over 100 degrees, it's humid, which makes it feel like about, I don't know, 115, 120 outside. I mean, it is literally blazing hot. We have not had temperatures this high for this long of a period in quite a long while. And then you add that on top of not having any moisture, our crops are under severe stress. Now what we are seeing is what we've done with cover crops and everything. Our crops are holding on, and holding on better than what our neighbors are. But still, I mean, we're closely getting to the point where it doesn't matter what we've done with soil health. There's no moisture in the soil, there's no moisture in the soil. Corn right now has been pulling about 2.5 inches of moisture out of the ground for about the last 3 weeks. I mean, literally, there's no more moisture in the soil. I don't know how the plant's even still alive. I'm scared to even go out in the field and see what kind of ears we got there, how much, what pollination looks like, what tip back looks like. I'm scared to death. I'm definitely not even considering spraying a fungicide on it this year. On our corn crop, we're not putting any more expenses into the corn crop because there's very little hope of actually getting that money back out. Our soybean crop, now we'll be putting a fungicide on it. It's getting close to the time to put a fungicide on it, but those beans are short. I mean, they're having a hard time even lapping the middles. And with as hot and dry as it is, I mean, there's no disease out there anyway, so there's no sense in applying a fungicide if there's no disease out there. Cotton, we still got to keep spraying cotton, because we don't, the fruit that's out here, bugs are going to tear up and the cotton plant will chunk it off. So we still got to keep spraying for bugs. We still got to keep spraying for weeds to kill the weeds that are out here, because if not, it's going to create big problems down the road, especially with pigweeds. So that's why we're out here with the hoods today. We've actually got a chance of rain tonight and into tomorrow. It was a day or two ago, our chance of rain was a lot better. They were calling for 50 to 60% chance of rain, which I thought there was a chance we might get a good rain, so we went ahead and sprayed all of our double crop soybeans with pre-emerge and Roundup, just hoping that we'll be able to get it rained in. But now, overnight, the National Weather Service has dropped it to about a 20 and 30% chance of rain, and we miss it today. There's no rain forecast for next week, more scorching temperatures, and that could be the final nail in the coffin on a lot of our crops. We've had a good run of some good years. I mean, we're due for a bad year, and looks like it's going to be this year. It's just the name of the game. It's definitely a tough pill to swallow, because you work so hard all winter, all spring, planning for your crop, getting your crop planted, getting off to the best start that you can, and then once summer hits, you literally watch it die a slow death. And when you have drought, that's what it is. It is a slow death. Day by day, your crop just steadily getting worse and worse and worse. And knowing that that's going to be your income for the entire year. There's no having a better week next week or more income next month. We got one shot at getting paid in a year, and this is it. Luckily, I've done a good job managing the farm. We are in good shape financially. It's virtually impossible that this bad year, this drought, is going to put us out of business. I mean, the possibility is always there. I mean, stuff could happen, but it's be extremely unlikely. But there's probably other farmers out there that might be singing a different tune. This might be the nail in the coffin for them, especially if they're overextended on debt, spend too much on the inputs. Every farmer's situation is different. But if there was ever one year that we didn't need a drought, it was this year with what we're seeing in input costs. I mean, just stupid record high input costs. This was not the year that we needed to see a drought. It's just been a perfect storm this year, that all the stuff that we can't control is looking like it's going to hammer us. We can't control our input costs. We can't control the weather. And it's going to put a big old hurting on a lot of people. And it's not just us in West Tennessee. There's a lot of farmers across the U.S. There's a lot of drought across the U.S. These guys are going to be in the same boat that we are. So guys, y'all that are asking, I ask for your prayers. If you believe in God, I hope you do believe in a God. Please say a prayer for our sake. I know God's got a plan for all of us, and His plan is ultimately perfect. And what He thinks, the way things need to go, and the way I think things need to go, a lot of times are completely separate. But I've got faith that He's going to bring us through somehow, some way. We will survive, we will persevere, and we will be stronger for it. Even though it may be painful in the short run. I wanted to bring you out here and show you something I've kept under wraps for a little while now. So it's been a new top secret project for me, but we're actually experimenting with a new crop this year. Can you guess what it is? Pineapples. Whoa, those sure look like some big old pineapple plants out there, doesn't it? All right, in all seriousness, no, this is not pineapples. This is corn out here, but I brought you out here to show you just how bad dry it is out here. This corn out here was planted late. I think I planted about May 29th. This is all part of the zombie trail that comes out of the woods and goes around. We got zombies hiding out here, so we don't plant this for yield. That's why it's planted so late. We're planted to be standing up good and strong in October. I mean, this corn is sad. I mean, like, it's like turning gray out here, and this was planted at a pretty low population. But since this corn was planted, I think it's had a total of maybe a ½ inch of rain, maybe 7/10 of rain at most. Plus, ever since the 1st of June, I mean, it has been hot. It's been hot a lot of days. Probably at least over half those days have been above 95 degrees, with several of them being right there at 100. Just like it is today, and I'm sure you can hear the wind blowing in the mic. You get 100-degree temperatures out here, wind blowing. I mean, the plants just cannot pull up enough moisture out of the ground to keep up. And when there's no moisture in the ground to begin with, it hurts it. So this is a very good visual example of just how bad dry it is here. I don't even know if this stuff is going to grow tall enough and put on an ear of corn, let alone be tall enough to make for a good attraction on the zombie trail this fall. But anyway, it's not just us here in West Tennessee that's suffering from a drought. There's a drought covering big swaths of the country. A lot of farmland is under a lot of stress this year. So anyway, I just want to bring you out here just to give you a visual example, show you the kind of conditions we're dealing with. The chances of it being a great year are long gone. The chances of it being a good year is almost faded away. We still got a chance with some crops. You know, our cotton is looking pretty good. But if we don't get a rain soon, it's going to start fading fast quick also.